You're live.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Ragin' with Phillip Russertt. He's got tragedy going on in Kickstarter right now. It's the second chapter of the Assassin's story. We will be talking about his creative journey and what in the world he was thinking getting into indie comics. This is episode 68 of Ragin' With. If you are watching on Twitter, make sure that you head over to our YouTube channel and leave some messages. We would love to hear from you. We are simulcasting to Geek Insider as well as Ragin' AVC. Hit the button. Don't forget to subscribe. We'll be right back after this.
Raging.
Hey, Nita, you know what I forgot to do?
What's that?
I forgot to warn Philip about our intro. But
He stayed, though. He's still here.
He stayed. We're going to drop the card because he's here in the hot seat.
I meant to tell you before, I like the intro song. I have watched the show a few times, so I like the intro song.
Before, when we haven't warned our guests about the intro, and all of a sudden they see my husband's belly, you see their eyes getting really big, like, what the hell kind of show am I on?
It's like, no, we only do that to each other. We won't do it to you, I promise.
I was actually going, where the hell did you get pictures of me?
So welcome to Ragin' With. Glad to have you here.
Thank you.
Let's dive right into it. Indie comics is something that I've kind of delved into in the last 2 years, really learning the industry, the trying to find the community and everything. It's one of the hardest things I've ever done in my life. But it hits all of the things that are in my wheelhouse. But Nita's not the first one to call me crazy. What in the world were you thinking kind of getting into indie comics?
I don't really think much. I just jump in and swim. So I was always into comics and mainstream, and it as corny as it sounds, it just everything geared the way it's going. It's like my path. You know what I mean? It's just how life can just flow and lead you to where you're supposed to be going, what you're supposed to be doing. I just feel that's kind of how it happened.
Was it a particular story that was in your head that just kept on repeating over and over, and you say, I got to write this?
No, it's the voices in my head that keep repeating. But the funny thing with the book is I didn't have any story. I didn't even have aspirations to write. I had this underlying frustration in my life that I wasn't fulfilling something, that there was something missing. I used to be a musician, and I like to create. I used to be really good at storytelling when I used, with kids and stuff. I'm the person at the family gathering that hangs out with the kids, and the adults go talk boring, But I had gotten really sick in January, and I was granted the best gift I could have had that I didn't have at the time, and that was time. So I said, what's my bucket list? What do I want to do? What is it I want to do with my time here on Earth? So I said, you know what? Let's write a book. I'd had the image of her design in my head for about a month,
Mm-hmm.
and I was like, all right, that just popped in my head for some reason. It's got to mean something. So let's go with that, and I did.
Mm-hmm. Now, tell me about this granted time thing, because I know when I've been granted time, a lot of times it's spent binge watching on Netflix with a bag of Doritos and crumbles all over the place. But you were motivated to write.
Yeah, I've never been a sit still. Well, let me rephrase that. In the latter half of my life, I've been very motivated to do things and but I didn't really find my niche, and now I have, so I'm more motivated than ever. So, I mean, I work 3 day jobs. I have 2 small, beautiful children, my wife, my home, and art repping and my show. I run my own conventions and this, and so I'm not really one to sit still. And I was in bed for 6 weeks, and it was actually almost fatal, my illness. So, um, I was like, I can't just sit here. I have to make use of all. I mean, I'll do a live stream while I'm driving, even though I'm not looking at the camera, just to promote my comic because I'm in traffic for an hour. I just Time is so precious, and I don't think we really value it the way we should, because it's the only thing that you don't get back. Really, you lose money, you can make more money. You lose time, you don't make up time.
Yeah, exactly. And it's the same thing with sleep. It's like you could be the worst sleeper, and you could say, "Oh, I'm going to try and get caught up," but it doesn't work that way. And so, tell me a little bit about the convention. You run a convention. How long have you been doing it?
Since 2000, well, my first show was in 2018. Of course, the prep before that was like a year before that,
Hmm.
2017. It's the Suffolk Comic and Art Expo. Suffolk County is where I am in Long Island. I had become friends with a lot of quote unquote big names in the industry, and I'm the type of guy that if I don't like how something's done, I don't complain about it. I just, or whatever, I just do it myself the way I think it should be done. So I ran a small show in a hotel, and it was actually very successful. 1 day show. 6 months later, I had another one. It jumped my attendance threefold, and we had 2,000 people there, and then I did a third show, and then COVID hit. I
Mm.
do plan a 2 day show called Creatorcon at some point, which it focuses on comic books and the creators. And even though I'll get like the headliner names, to me, all artists, talent is talent. I mix everybody in an artist alley. There's no small publisher section. If you love Dale Keown, you could be sitting right next to him, because
Hmm.
that way you can network. Maybe he someday says, "Hey, I like this guy that I sat next to at the show's work, and I can't get this deadline done. I need somebody to do some ghost work for me on backgrounds." You never know.
What in the world propelled you into doing a convention? Because that takes a lot of organization, and on top of it, trying to balance work, your jobs, plural, and home life.
Well, again, I just jump in and swim. I get an idea, and in 5 minutes, I'm on it. I don't stop. I mean, I think about what I'm doing as I'm doing it, but I don't
Mhm.
try to psych myself out of anything. It's like that sounds interesting. Let's give it a shot, because I don't feel any fear of quote unquote failure.
Mhm.
My fear is being 75 with so much regret, looking back at my life and feeling like I wasted it, or what if I tried. I've seen too many people, um, and doing that, and that pain, that's just rough. That's like slow death.
Mhm.
um, so I was like, I didn't like the way conventions were going because they were alienating the creators of comics. So I said, I'm doing one my way, and by the grace of God, it did well. So
That's interesting because, I mean, as a Comic Con attendee, maybe once have I thought, yeah, I could run something like this. It was like, are you freaking kidding me? I
it's a
mean,
lot.
it is a lot because you have to do a lot of organization, a lot of communication, and things like that. And a lot of things have to fall into place in order to make it happen. What was your first event? Were you sick? I mean, were you like, oh my God, this thing is going to be such a dog?
Well, first I want to say I'm kind of a loser. Like organization is fun for me. Like if you look at these games behind me, I had more fun opening them up and like putting everything together and packing it nicely and storing it. Organization is fun for me. I'm an idiot. I'll go to Home Depot to look for a rack system to put up in my closet on a Friday night. It's just I don't know. I like it. So that aspect of the show was like right up my alley. Um, I didn't have any fear or anxiety going into the show. It was more like adrenaline. Like let's get it going and let's see what happens, And of course, you hope it happens well and it goes well, and thankfully it did. But the other thing is, I'm very hard on myself. I don't allow myself to stop and enjoy the small victories because I always feel like I haven't accomplished anything yet. You
Mm.
know, so even when something goes well, I'm like, yeah, that wasn't where it should have been. And my wife is like, would you just give yourself a break here? Relax.
Hmm. That's really hard to do, especially if you've got that kind of personality where, and I totally relate because I'm always telling Nita we have to stay uncomfortable. You know,
That's it. Thank
I
you.
never want to be the smartest person in the room, or the most talented, because there's always something
No.
to learn, and so I'm always uncomfortable, and I just got used to it.
Oh, but the second you think you're smart, something comes along and knocks you on your ass.
And reminds you you're not.
Yeah.
You're right.
Exactly. But
It's like bang.
that is so perfectly said. If once you become comfortable, you are no longer growing. You're stagnant. That's
Mhm.
it. And I don't want to be comfortable either. I agree with you absolutely. Hey,
Yeah,
Jim.
because there's always something to learn, you know, and
Hmm.
I love the idea of kind of bellying up to the next person to learn something from them. How can I become better? How can I become more organized? How can I uh, be better at my craft? Because that's the thing. When you are comfortable, that's it. It's like then you're already behind the 8 ball. You know, you're already falling behind.
And you touched on something else. Like I look at people that are where I'd like to be, and I don't ever feel an envy or a jealousy or an anger towards them or anything. I feel inspired. How did they get there? What did
Mhm.
they do? And how do I apply that to me? You know, that's how I look at things. Because someone posted a meme today, and it's so true. It said, "You can never compete with me because I want you to win too."
Yes, I love that, and the world is big enough for everybody to go
Yeah.
in there and do your stuff. I mean, nobody is like you. Nobody is like me, and so our stories, our music, everything that we do is, if we put our heart and soul into it, we put our own voice to it. It makes it as unique as possible.
And if what you're doing is what the people want and it's quality, it'll speak for itself. You'll be successful because of that. And if you're not, and it's because the product isn't what they want, then your job is to go back and say, okay, well, what do they want? And is it what I want too?
Hmm.
And then just make it work. That's, hey, Pete.
Now, tell me a little bit about tragedy. I mean, like, where did that come from? You said that you like organization and stuff like that. So I'm kind of, I think, more interested in your writing process, where it came from, and how you decided to put this together.
Well, here's the really weird situation. As much as I love organization, I love spontaneity. Like I like to just have fun and jump in and not worry about it and overthink things. But then when I'm in it, it's like, okay, but we have to be structured. Let's take care of it this way. Um, the aesthetic, the vision of the character just popped in my head purely as you see it now. And I was like, wow, this is interesting. And she had the theater mask on, the tragedy. This tragedy is comedy. And right away I go, tragedy. Okay, we got a title, we got a protagonist. Now what? And I will be honest with you, for a month I sat on it because I was intimidated about writing. I was intimidated about the process because I didn't do it before. And will it be any good? Or how do I do this? And also because I'm not the most patient person, would it affect the writing? Because you have to pace properly. If you're too excited to get to that cool moment, you're going to ruin the build up to that moment. So I got very intimidated. So when I got sick and I was in bed, I got home from the hospital, I was in bed. I was like, the character has to be something. It just popped. It has to be something. So really quickly in my first 3 pages in my head, I said she's going to be doing this. She's going to go in a warehouse and she's going to be sneaking in and she could kill a bunch of guards. And it's going to be very mysterious, no dialogue. And you're going to like, who is this woman? What's going on? And that's all I knew. I didn't know why she was in there. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know who her antagonist was. So this is the answer that every writer gets mad at me about. I just sat down and wrote for 8, 9 hours straight, and chapter 1 came out. I didn't revise a lot. I didn't do all this organization. I didn't outline anything. I just, as if I was telling a story to a bunch of kids at a campfire, I just started writing. The antagonist or the adversary, Breath of the Dragon, he was a little plotted. Where I was laying on the couch with my wife before I got hospitalized and before I got really sick, and I was like, she has to go up against somebody. And I always love dragons and Chinese culture, and I think people give Japanese culture a lot of love, and it deserves it. But nobody really looks at Chinese culture. It's different. So I was like, you know what? Maybe she'll go. It'll be a Chinese warrior. And in 5 minutes, I came up with the aesthetics of the dragon gauntlets. The mouths are open, his hands come out, and the armor. And Ricardo Silva was the artist. It's like he was able to pull it out of my head and literally take everything I wanted and put it on paper, which I thought was amazing. I mean, I gave him a billion references down to the stitching on her vest, and he knocked it out of the park. So, and then as I wrote, whatever dialogue came out, whatever came out, their personalities came out. And yeah, there's a little of me in her. There's a little of my wife in her. I mean, I think when you're a new writer, the best thing to do is write from yourself, because at least you know the source material. I think when you become a seasoned writer, you can start writing about anything you want, that even if you aren't relating from yourself. I don't think I'm there yet.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, that's something that I want to touch on too, because we have a lot of writers. I am a prose writer, and then spending the last 2 years learning comic books and scripting and things like that. When I came out of the gate, I was just like, what does a comic book script look like? What is the standard? Nobody had an answer. They were like, it's however you can communicate to your artist. And I'm like,
right.
that's not helpful.
Well, and just to go back a minute, as spontaneous as I can be, I will do research on things that need research first, though. So I did look up a bunch of comic scripts online from Peter David and a bunch of other people. And like you, I asked, and yeah, it was all over the place. The Marvel way, where you just say, draw this, however you want. So I started looking at screenplays.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where I got my idea of how close they are to comic scripts, how I would kind of want to do my script. Setting, panel, page, panel, setting, and then dialogue. And if there's characters in there, I'd give the descriptions, for the artist. And then you just tag references to be sent, and you send them later. And it's been working out. And as we go from issue to issue, Ricardo and I just really bond and meld even more, and we become this, unified force, and it just gets easier.
Yeah, I love when people kind of get when they find that group of people that they can work with and eventually have that shorthand. So anybody new coming in is screwed, because they've got to get caught up.
Well, and that's the thing is, I love the sense of community. Unity is in the word community, and as corny as it sounds, I love when people can put away ego. This is my role. I know what my role is. I'm no better or less than anybody. This is my role, and my role serves its purpose. And when everybody approaches like that, beautiful things happen. Whether it's a rock band or a creative team in a book. I mean, like Peter Palmiotti and Jim O'Reilly. Jim did a cover for my book, and Peter inked a couple of covers. Wonderful people to work with, and really talented. And it was about putting out the best work for the for the fans, for ourselves, our own pride. Our pride wasn't competing with each other or seeing who's better. It was, we want to look good as a team and put out a great book.
Right. You never have a second opportunity for a first impression. So
Right.
you want to put out the best thing possible. So one of the questions that I love asking our guests, since you're in the hot seat, is that, when it comes to building teams, we all kiss a bunch of frogs before we find a prince. But once we find that prince, it's almost like you want to cleave onto them. It's like, oh, please don't be too busy before my next project is done, that type of thing. So in a way, it kind of forms a sense of nepotism, if you will.
Right.
And I think that's important too, because again, those bad experiences have soured a lot of new creators to say, you know what, this isn't for me. What is the secret sauce for you and your team, and what keeps you going?
Well, I've been very fortunate because I've been an art collector, as you can see behind me, for well over a decade. And from big names to upcoming names, that maybe are a little more obscure. So I had a good sense of, a lot of artists to approach, and what their attitudes were already about meeting deadlines and being professional, responsible, and this and that. So I was already fortunate with that. But I was already repping Ricardo. And I looked at his work and I was like, you know what, he'd be perfect for this, because I love the '80s and the '90s in comics the most, and I thought his style would work. So I approached him. He said, "Yeah, absolutely." He loved the idea and he wants to be a part of it, and he's as married to this as I am. Of course, I pay him his page rate. I just because I'm his rep doesn't mean I'm going to take advantage of him. Um, if anything, it's the opposite, right? The whole point of being a rep is because you want to make sure that artists aren't taken advantage of. So why would I start? So I was very fortunate. Everyone I've worked with so far has been a pleasure. My issues come from external sources, but my creative team has always been wonderful. So
Yeah, it's really good to kind of have that focus again, because it's about making comics. It's about making good
right,
stories and good art and putting it out there. And uh, you know, a lot of people who are coming in too don't understand that there's an investment in it. There's an investment in time and money, resources of all kinds to try and put this together. Um, and then you said earlier that you just jump in. You've said it a couple of times. Did you ever jump in and went, "Oh my God, what the hell was I thinking?"
I've jumped in and fallen flat on my face in the shallow end, but I never go, "What was
Oh,
I
that hurts.
thinking?" And I never go, "What was I thinking?" Only because I know that what I would have been thinking if I didn't. And I
Mhm.
would have been thinking, what if I just did it and tried? What if it worked out? So at least I got my answer, and now I can move on to the next thing.
Very
So
good.
that's always my mindset. I'm not afraid to try something new because I feel like, all right, if I fall on my face, I learned right away that's not the avenue I'm to go. So now let me focus on the next one. And I don't care what people think of me personally. I only care when it affects my business or my family. So I'm not afraid to look bad, like have egg on my face, like, oh, look at that dummy, he slipped and fell on the ice. I don't care. We all slip and fall on the ice.
That's
You
all.
know,
That's all part of being uncomfortable,
right?
growing
I mean,
pains.
it's like if I ask a girl out when I was younger and I got rejected and my friends are laughing at me, I'm like, yeah, but you sat there. I at least took a shut.
Yeah, she could
What
have
if
said
she said
yes.
yes? Yeah.
Exactly.
So that stuff never, none of those things weigh on my decision. My decisions are passion. I'm very passionate, one way or the other, whether it's my love or my anger. I'm very passionate, and it's like when I know it's something I'm really interested in and I'm passionate about, I'm like, well, just try it.
Mhm.
What do you got to lose?
Right.
Money can always be made again. You know, as long as you try to do the right thing, the good people will know who you are, and those who don't, well, they were never on your side anyway. So just take a shot and do what you can, and hope for the best.
So there are people who are in the industry and they have an idea of what the brass ring looks like. Some of them are saying, I want to work for Marvel or DC. I want to work for the big two. And other people are just, they just want to make the best indie book. What does the ring look like for you?
As corny as this sounds, the brass ring for me is someone, especially like maybe a 17-year-old young woman that didn't have it easy, or a bad father figure, or just lacks confidence, to walk up to me and tell me that my book resonated with her, and it meant something to her, and that she related, but it motivated her in some way. And that would apply to a young man as well, of course. But,
Hmm.
being a father of two young girls and just seeing how many, I've never met a woman who realized how beautiful she was, how capable she was, how strong she was. No matter how much they were, they never realized it in themselves. And it always fascinated me why. So I wanted to create a character that was real, that related to that, and maybe it would show a woman like, wow, I'm not giving myself enough credit. I really am stronger than I think, or I really am, worth more than I realize. So if that resonates with some people and they walk away feeling that and it touched them, then I'm happy.
That's the key, though. When we are storytellers and it resonates with other people, because it had to be something when you were writing the story of Grace to kind of feel it while you were writing it. That's so important, though, because if you're not feeling it, how can you expect anybody else to?
Right. Well, I think we're very tribalistic these days. I mean, we're really compartmentalizing everything: man, woman, this race, that race. Left, right politics, religious, not religious. Like we're finding. While we keep talking about acceptance, we keep purposely dividing each other and putting ourselves in boxes.
Hmm.
So there's a little bit of me in Grace O'Connor. I'm a man, but we have the same feelings, drives. You and I are not different because we were born biologically different. We have passions. We have moments where we feel we're on top of the world and things are going great, and then moments where we feel like we just got kicked in the teeth and we don't want to get up the next day. We
Hmm.
we have insecurities and doubts, and then we have moments of triumph. This is life. It's that roller coaster, and all of us go through it. And the one common denominator is we all just want to feel relevant.
Hmm.
We want to know that we're here for a reason, that it's not for nothing, you know? And I think that's the common denominator. And if you get rid of all the other crap and you just recognize we all just want to enjoy life and feel relevant, you'd be surprised how much we're alike.
Exactly. When you were speaking, it reminded me of this show called Lie to Me. Do you remember that show?
I don't, I'm
There,
sorry.
he was a doctor, but he studied facial expressions, so micro expressions and things like that. And it didn't matter how old you were, what color, what nation, it didn't matter. Those expressions were the same. We feel
Right.
pain, we feel joy, laughter and joy looks the same throughout, and it's universal. So when we're writing stories and things like that, and we touch on those elemental things, it's a story that carries through, and it's it's timeless. And that's the trick. How do we write these timeless stories and things? How do we connect?
Well, like I said, just right from myself. I know what I feel, and I know that I'm really not different. We all might handle how we feel differently, some in good ways, some in bad ways, some in different ways, but the feelings are the same. So if you tap into the feelings, then you can decide who your character is and how they deal with those feelings. Some people are guarded and defensive, some
Mhm.
people are more outgoing and are not worried about being vulnerable. you know some people are self-deprecating and that's how they deal with their insecurities, and some people are narcissistic. So recognizing the feeling, and then that the way different people handle different things is how I go about writing my characters. And
Mhm.
I'm also old, so I've had a lot of experience with people.
See, Anita, I'm not the only one that throws around that hashtag old. So,
Oh,
but
what are
I
you,
love the fact,
27?
yeah, I'm a grandma. I'm going to be 50 this
Are
year.
you really?
Yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you.
I just
I
turned 49, so.
Oh, okay, yeah. We lived this long. Should have taken better care of ourselves, right?
Yeah.
I love the fact that you said that you write for yourself. Um, because that really brings it home for a lot of people, instead of writing for something, because as a writer, I've taken on jobs, and Nita's seen me, and I call them my soul suckers. I do it because I have to, not
Right.
because I want to. And so it's really kind of cool to see you taking a passion of yours, putting it into words and bringing it to life because you want to, and not for anything else or really anybody else.
Truth is, how much have I invested in the art behind me, the statues, the boxes of toys here? if nobody picked up my book, I'd still be funding the book, and just even if it's just me and my family reading it. I was proud when I got that book. Like I said, I was a musician, and I played the drums. I could play Rush and Dream Theater and all these complicated songs, and people would tell me how great a drummer I was, and I never believed it.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't matter what you said to me. It's what I was telling me on the inside.
Right.
Now, other than my wife and children, these books that I've written 17 issues so far, and this story is the first time in my life, again, not talking about other than my wife and children, that I really felt like I did it right. I'm okay with it. I look back at it and I don't go, oh God, no, And so, like, when if somebody, and luckily nobody has, but if somebody were to say they didn't like the writing or whatever, I don't get hurt because I do. I'm okay with it. You're welcome to not like it. I'm not going to make everybody happy, but I'm comfortable with it.
That is a great attitude, because a lot of people will be crushed by a rejection. But we're going to talk about that in a little bit. We're going to take a little bit of a break. Let's see. Let me get in here. So for everybody who's tuning in, thank you. We are Raging with Phillip Russertt. He's got Tragedy right now on Kickstarter. Make sure that you get over there. We've got the links in the show notes, as well as some of his social media, so you can follow him everywhere. Just don't peek in his windows, because that's kind of weird, and he might have a problem with that. Hey, Nita, we want to give a little bit of love to our friends over at Catch the Craze. Why don't we do that? Go ahead and hit the...
It's Monty Moore. I'm a 30-year comics veteran in comics, games, and movies, and you've been watching one of my absolute favorite podcasts, Catch the Craze.
You are watching Catch the Craze.
What am I listening to?
And you're listening to Catch the Craze.
Where are all the indies at?
A Catch the Craze podcast. What are you watching?
I'm watching Catch the Craze.
What are you going to do?
Subscribe now to Catch the Craze, the #1 show online for independent.
Have you subscribed to?
You are an independent. Catch the Craze! Making moves on your own. Catch the Craze! On your grind in the streets. Catch the Craze! Join the movement. Catch the Craze!
Man, Sam and George are so much cooler than us. That is Catch the Craze. We are Raging with Phillip Russertt. And let me drop the card here. Welcome back. Hope you guys had a quick drink. And so let's get going here.
Could I interject 1 second?
Sure.
Catch the Craze is an awesome show, and I was a guest, and it was my favorite interview. George is awesome at what he does. Sam is awesome. I am cross-promoting with Sam. Please go back his book, The Forbidden Issue 2, The Hunt. It's on Indiegogo and Kickstarter right now, guys. Please, go pledge. Don't think that because somebody funded, they're fine. Printing is expensive. Kickstarter's percentage is expensive. Paying your artist, and getting quality work is expensive. And we all are tough for money, and he wants to build this and get to the next book. So
well, if our guest is going to pitch it, let's go ahead and throw the video then.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, please. Go ahead.
All
please.
He killed his father. A curse on his people. Betraying his family in search of the truth. Awakening the evil behind the curse. Now they must race to save their people. Or die trying.
Oh, now
you can get the link on my page too. I have his link on my page.
So we're going to bring up your Kickstarter in a couple of minutes, but how did that happen with the crossover print?
Again, I met Sam and George. I loved what they were doing. They're good people with good hearts, and they're what's right in the community.
For
Absolutely.
Sure. I love those dudes.
Yeah, I do too. And when I saw that Sam was going to launch the same day as me, I reached out and said, hey, dude, why don't we do some sort of cross-promotion to help each other out? And he was like, sure, what did you have in mind? So he drew that print, and I paid to have it colored by Giorgio Rosasco from Italy. And it's a free digital print for when we hit 75 backers. So my back, I'm not sure where he is yet. I don't know if I think he got it, but backers on both campaigns will get the free digital print when we get to 75. So I believe in him. I believe in what he's doing. I read the book. I like it. It's a good fantasy story. And good people need to be supported. I mean, we do. We have to support them.
You were saying something earlier about that you love the community. Nita and I have been, like fully immersed and stuff like that. And we've seen, like I said, we've kissed a lot of frogs. We've met a couple of princes and stuff like that. It's really hard
Take the good, you take the bad, you take them all in the bad in the comics.
The facts of life.
Right.
When you think of community, what does that look like for you?
Well, it's like I said before, you're only competing against someone if you're trying to beat them, and beating them. If you're supposed to be on the same team, how do you succeed then? I mean, like, how they say it takes a village to raise a child. Well, we can build a village much better if we join each other than if I'm going to do my own house, leave me alone, and because of that, I'm going to try to hoard all the nails and the hammers so that I have them when I need them. Well, then there's people not building a house and the village is not built. So to me, it's the only competition you should ever have is being a better person tomorrow than you are today, whether it's a creator, a father, or whatever. I have work to do on some things, I don't always do things right, but that's my competition. It's not you. I used to have a live stream that I just stopped recently. Why would I think you're my competition? Whether you're getting more viewers or better names, so to speak, or whatever, good on you. How did you do it, and what can I learn from it? I mean, your show is way more professional than mine was, way more. So I think ego, a certain level of ego is good if it's applied right, but that ego that makes you see people as threats or competition is really only hurting yourself. Let's work together. You help when you can, and when you can't, the best thing to do is just don't hurt.
One of the biggest challenges that a lot of creators have is imposter syndrome, and you kind of alluded to it before with kind of like the self-deprecating thing. It's like, oh, I'm kind of like, I'm a nerd who's going to like this stuff, and a lot of people they're their biggest hurdle. They will not get out of their own way to succeed. And with kind of your personality that I'm gleaning from you is like, you just kind of dive in. It's like, well, come hell or high water, I'm just going to make this work. And it's okay to fall flat on your face. What would be some advice that you have for people to kind of get there, to get out of their own way?
Fall on your face many times. Well, look, and I don't mean to be, promoting so badly, but the point of the character too is that, if you're never tested, then how do you know what you're worth? So the first thing is you have to be tested, and when you get through it, you have to recognize that you had the strength to get through it. We all, you see, as you get older, we get tested more and more and more. So usually older people have learned a lot more, right? Because we've been through the trials. Well, you've got to go through the trials. And a good way to go through the trials, stop overthinking and worrying and just go do it. And you deal with what comes. And don't beat yourself up. We all screw up. You're allowed to screw up. Nobody was born perfect or with an instruction manual. Be comfortable with the fact that you're going to screw up, but you're not defined by that. You're defined how you recover.
And be strong and realize that others around you are going to screw up, because you're going to have to be strong enough to pull knives out of your back if you're going to make it through this.
Right. And again, there's also that sometimes insecurity comes out as a narcissism, right? And by doing that, putting down another, it makes you feel better. But, we hit 7,000. That's
you did.
Great.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Well, I got a backer already on your show. That's awesome. Thank you. And I just feel like that narcissism in the long run is really only eroding that person themselves. They may
Mhm.
temporarily feel better because they put somebody else down, but they're still going home in pain. They still look in the mirror and cringe. They still roll up in bed and they cry. So it really baffles me when that's the approach. And I get angry at first and then I calm down and I just feel sorry for them and I just hope that things work out for them because there's some lost souls out there and you hope you can help them be found. But yeah, just get tested. Don't be so hard on yourself. Pick yourself up, dust yourself off, and just do the next thing that comes. There's nothing in this life you can't recover from other than death.
Yeah. One of the hardest things for me to get past when I was much younger was the idea that a no would kill me. You know, it would be so devastating. And then I realized when I had gotten my first rejection letter, because I was trying to get a book published, I got my first rejection letter. And at first it just felt like a knife in the heart, right? But then I realized I'm steps ahead of anybody else because I put it out there.
Right?
And that no sucked, but I did it.
But that's the thing is, we, and myself included, we attach our self-worth to whatever it is that we're putting out there, right? That no stung because it was attached to your self-worth. And as we get older, we realize, no, it just wasn't what they were looking for. It doesn't mean it's bad. It just wasn't what they wanted. This is a subjective thing. Art is subjective. Who's to say what's good art and what's bad art? I like this style. I don't like this style. But art is art. And there's Jim O'Reilly's cover right there, by the way. Jim's in the audience, and the one on the right is Jim.
Well, we appreciate everybody who is tuning in right now. Thank you. And thank you for leaving your comments as well. Make sure that you hit the subscribe button. We're simulcasting to Rage on AVC as well as Geek Insider. And we're also on Twitter right now. But if you're leaving comments on Twitter, we can't see them. So get over to YouTube and check out the show notes because we've got the link to Tragedy Chapter 2 right now, as well as Phil's social media. So make sure that you follow him and subscribe. So we're taking a look at some of your interior pages here.
Yeah, we were $9 away from $7,000, and I don't have any tiers for $9. So who donated $9 to get me to $7,000? I love you. By the way, honestly, look, I talking about that 5% of the fringe element. I've received a lot of love and a lot of great people in this industry, and I want to focus on that, and I'm blessed by that, and I've gotten more support than I ever did in my life. I've met some wonderful friends that I really appreciate, so thank you to them. Chris Sotomayor, famous Marvel DC colorist, did the interior colors. There's a perfect example of a beautiful soul that I've met and has been a very kind friend to me on Facebook.
There you go.
That's
and
Sam Vera's print.
Yes, Sam Vera's print. And this is at 75 backers for Forbidden issue 2, The Hunt, which is now on Kickstarter as well. And we're just kind of scrolling through to see what the artwork looks like and things. So going back to the writing process, if you don't mind, when it came time to scripting things out and before you got to the shorthand with your artist, okay? What was that like? Because you said you kind of looked at screenplays and things, but are you a visual thinker or like what was that like kind of putting it down into words? Because you said again, you just kind of sat down and wrote.
Yeah, that's a great question. I was writing as if I was watching a television show that I really loved, like a Netflix Daredevil or something. When I like to, I think artists in some case like to be directed and in some case want freedom, right? I mean, you don't want to strangle your artist. Let them have their chance to interpret and speak freely. So, but with the fight scenes, like here's a perfect example. I like to choreograph fight scenes and I like to try to do things that are different. So I would write out, this individual does this, blah, 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 blah. But next 3 panels is sword fighting and whatever. make it dynamic and have fun with it, and whatever you want to do for the next 3 pages, whatever, go for it. So Ricardo has that balance. So as I was writing, again, it was kind of like looking at like a movie. Like, I don't know if you read the first book, but the way I edit it and go from this character to this character is like watching a show. I've been told I write more like I'm writing a novel or a screenplay than a comic script, but I think that flow was good for Ricardo, because I was visceral when I needed to be for him. Mm-hmm. So he could get it in his mind, like, oh, that comes out cool. Like, everybody who read the script told me they could see it in their head as they were reading.
That's the trick. Yeah. That's hard to do.
That's En Vue. It sold right away. She got a variant cover, a sketch cover, which we have available for book 1. Mm-hmm. She drew this. I didn't even know she was doing this. She sends it to me in a digital picture, and she goes, I want to help the campaign. Put it up as a tier or one shot. And she didn't want to take money for it. And I said, oh, no. You're going to take money for it. I'm not doing that. So once the campaign funds come in, she'll get her money for it. She insisted. She was very sweet. It sold right away. It's a beautiful piece of art.
Great piece.
Yeah, and it's a Kickstarter exclusive. We're not making prints of it. It's not going to be reproduced anywhere. So whoever bought that, and I know who it is, they asked to stay quiet. Like they're mm-hmm. shy. Mm-hmm. They'll have that. It's the only cover in the world that they'll have the only one.
Wow, pretty cool. And I love the way that you have also given the option to mix and match. Like book 2 with a cover from book 1, because you have several variants, which is pretty nice.
Several. There's 45 covers between the first 2 issues.
Oh,
and that's why I put them in a book of covers for people, because I don't want to milk you. I don't want you to feel like I love these 5 covers, but I can't buy the same comic 5 times. I don't feel that's right.
Mm-hmm. What in the world were you thinking then with that many covers?
To hire as many artists as I can so that they're working.
That's awesome. Yeah,
and
because
I just love the art so much that I just kept saying, I love this artist, I love this artist, I love this artist.
Mm-hmm. And it shows on your walls.
Yeah.
You're a fan of art and beautiful artwork too. Tell us a little bit about Grace O'Connor. What was it? And I think I've tried to ask you this a couple of times already, but what was it about her? Like you said, you saw the red hair and stuff like that. Was there something that influenced you to write this kind of story? Was it like a binge watch or something that you read and you were like, and all of a sudden the gears started going?
My wife. Mm-hmm. My wife is the most elegant, beautiful woman I've ever met. She has an elegance and a class that is rare these days in a person. You feel it when you meet her, but she has no idea. And maybe it's good for me. That's why she's married to me. But, and I just looked at her and I'm like, why does she not realize more about her capabilities and her beauty and her intelligence and her fight and her spirit and all that? And it inspired me to write a female character that to try to understand what a woman would go through with those feelings. But in the same time, like I said before, men go through them too. I think just society makes us kind of shut up about it,
I love the fact that you can write from a woman's perspective too, because I myself love writing in a man's perspective, and nobody's ever come at me and said, well, you're not a man. How can you tell? Because there, again, we were touching on this before. It's from our own experiences or observations and things like that. I mean, if you're a good observer, and a decent historian, you can write this stuff down. And be that empathetic soul.
And it's like you said, oh, you're a man. How do you know a woman? I listened.
Mm-hmm.
It's a simple answer. I listened.
See, See, you're getting points with your wife tonight, aren't you?
Actually, she's probably passed out on the couch right now because I've been doing shows like crazy, and she's like, "Oh God, I'm going to bed."
Yeah. It's really hard being on the junket, especially during a Kickstarter. What has been like the biggest challenge for you when it came to like crowdfunding for the first time?
Trust. Having them trust me that your
Mhm.
money is not being spent in vain. That I don't mean this to be braggadocious, but I really feel this book can stand up against any book on your local comic shop stand right now.
Mhm.
But I understand why people would be reluctant. I mean, who am I? They don't know me. I don't have a proven track record. And it could be as beautiful looking as you want it to be, but that doesn't mean there's substance. So, excuse me. So I think the biggest challenge for me, is probably everybody, is getting the people's eyes on it is not as hard as you think. It's getting their eyes on it, and then they trust you to follow through with buying it. So I would think the trust issue.
Mhm. Having followed it from the first issue and seeing the second issue, I mean, nobody would really know. I mean, the way you put your campaigns together is very professional, and
That's Russ Cassidy.
yeah,
He puts my pages together. I love him. He's my Gandalf.
yeah, and that's so important too, because I mean, one of the things as far as getting out there is that a lot of new creators, they're so busy creating that they don't even think about marketing and
Right.
presentation and things like that. And quite frankly, when I see a campaign that looks like a hot mess, I'm like, well, how much do they really care about their character? How much do they care
Right.
about their book? And
Right.
so having a really nice representation here is so important.
And again, it's funny that you say that because, and I'm not going to get into it, don't worry, but I've reacted to some things recently because it tarnishes reputation for business, etc. Because like you said before, first impressions, you only get that one shot.
Mhm.
And when you're doing business and I'm a nobody trying to make something, and I'm promoting so hard and I'm working and I'm bleeding and I'm sweating and I'm crying and I'm everything to just get you to look at the book and trust it, it is important that that impression is good. So I believe doing it 100% right as best as you can, or don't do it. And people don't like that advice. I've had people say, what if I can't afford the artists that I want on the level I want? I go, I'm sorry, but get a second job or a third job
Right.
Mhm.
and
How
put it
bad do
off
you
for a
want
year.
it?
Right.
Yeah.
Put it off
How
for a
bad do you
year.
want it?
Because as much as you want it and you're impatient, I get that. But if you put that book out and it's not the quality you want, well, you just started wrong. You started off going uphill with boulders running down at you and people shooting arrows at you. You know what I mean? It's like you just made it harder for yourself. It's hard enough as it is.
Yeah,
And you have to
exactly.
understand the business side. Look at Todd McFarlane. I'm going to get killed for this, but he's not the greatest artist. But you know what? That was a man who didn't give a crap what you
No, but his
thought.
toys are awesome.
Yes. He's a great businessman. He understood
Right.
business. He understood marketing. He is a good artist. And he didn't care what people thought. They yelled at him, you can't put Spider-Man's knee behind his head. And what's that spaghetti webbing crap? And he said, I'm doing it anyway. To hell with you.
Mhm.
And look where he is.
Mhm.
So.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen other pieces of art and stuff like that, and like your knee-jerk reaction is like, oh, but then all of a sudden it gets kind of a cult following too, so I think it's about and one of the things that we love about the show, the way we do it, is that we want to connect with you, because if you're a decent person, guess what, I'm more likely to seek you out and see what else you've been working on,
Right.
as opposed to like it's like, oh, he's a big jerk, it's like, oh, no, I have no reason to follow you. And that's the thing, is like having those opportunities to follow you and see what you're doing is so important, because that is part of your branding. That is what is going to make people connect with you or seek you out at conventions.
That's like the fourth or fifth big topic that you and I are 1000% eye to eye on, because you are selling yourself. Because if you went into you went into a vendor at a comic store and they're side by side, they both have the same statue. The good guy has it for $5 more, and the guy that is a total jerk is $5 less. You'll spend the $5 more on the good guy because you know it's going to a good family and someone who deserves it. You don't feel the jerk has earned your hard work money, hard money. And I understand there's people that struggle to make $10 an hour, and I'm asking to buy a book for $15. I just asked you to work an hour and a half for my book, so it better be the best damn book that I can give you, because you are going to the job you can't stand for wages that don't sustain you, and I'm asking you to spend that hour and a half of working that crappy job to buy my book.
Mm-hmm.
So you have the highest card stock right away. I get the best talent I can possibly get on there, and I feel I've written a good book because I don't want to embarrass myself or waste your time.
Yeah. And I love that attitude too, because again, it speaks to even, and I'm sure you've seen it at your own conventions too. You have vendors who sit there and they're engaged with the audience, and then you have the ones who are kind of sitting there and they're playing on their phones and they're totally ignoring everybody for whatever reason. It's like, why would I stop at your table?
Right.
Why would I want to buy your book?
But also, don't be a carnival barker when you're at a convention. When
Right.
you go out there in the aisle and you're trying
Right.
to drag people, that hurts everybody in your aisle. And I'll tell you, when I first started going to New York Comic Con and I went to small press, there were always some guys that would try, come here. And like, they would hound me.
Mm-hmm.
I stopped going down that aisle to avoid them.
Yes.
How many good artists and independents did I not get eyes on because of that one man's actions, that one person's actions? So don't be a carnival barker.
Right.
It's true. I mean, I can't tell you how many times I've been to a table where I just kind of felt so not bullied, I mean, it's still my
intimidated,
dollar.
though. You're intimidated.
But it was intimidated exactly to a point where it's just like I almost felt shamed into
Because
buying
you don't
the
want
book.
to end up looking like an asshole when you tell them to go fuck themselves. You don't want to see their shit.
Right. And you're feeling victimized, like, because you know in your heart that I don't want to look like a jerk or be mean to them, but they're putting me in this position.
Right.
That
irks the fuck out of me.
And so, like, moving forward, it's like I'm not going to go anywhere near their table, or I won't make eye contact because I will go down the aisle. I don't want to be the person that says
these
one
people are
person's
coming
gonna
out
ruin
into
it.
the middle of the aisle and like practically grabbing you and pulling
At
you over.
MegaCon, what I learned, Meredith, is the best thing to do is make eye contact with them. You got to look at them like this. They'll leave you alone. I'm telling you, they will.
So we're scrolling through your campaign here. Again, it is the format of it is gorgeous. I mean, really well done, put together.
Very good job.
Very professional and things like that. And that is so important, you guys. Anybody who's tuning in or looking at
are well put together too. It's a beautiful campaign.
Looking at anybody, who is looking at perhaps putting together your own crowdfund, do your research, please. Find campaigns like this that are well put together. It's like, what are the elements that make it successful? I mean, you hit $7,000, and I'm sure you want to make a lot more here, but here's the thing. It's like taking the care, as much care as you put into your book is as much care as you should put into your campaign. Make it look professional. That way people can tune in and go, hey, this is good stuff. And on that note, Philip, we're just about at our hour. Do you mind if I play the video?
Thank you. Sure.
All right. So hold on a second. Let me put that on the big screen here. And here we go. Tragedy Chapter 2. Tune in and don't go away because we have one more question for Philip before we leave.
Who is the Breath of the Dragon? What is the fate of Grace O'Connor? Chapter 1 left readers wanting more. Find out in the second chapter of the hit indie comic book that has a lot of people talking.
Hello again, everyone. My name is Phillip Russertt, and I'm proud to bring you the second chapter of my ongoing series, Tragedy. I promise this will be a fun roller coaster ride, and I hope you join me on this fantastic journey. We also have variant covers by Tyler Kirkham, Al Garza, and Ryan Kincaid, as well as some amazing indie artists such as Peter Clinton, Len Danovich, Nick Justice, Kenny Calderon, Brad Voth, Steph Wilson, and more. Thanks for making my dream of bringing this story to your home a reality.
And there we are. So, Tragedy, Chapter 2 on Kickstarter. You've got 12 more days to go, so it ends on December 1st. 12 days to go. Oh my gosh, 12 days until the end of the month?
Don't remember.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
Thanksgiving's next week. We're a week away, yeah.
You hush up now, Phil. I deny your reality. Oh my goodness. So we are at our hour and it is time to go, but we love to ask our guests one last thing. Being that you're still fairly new, this I would love to hear this maybe a year or two when we ask it again, because I know we're going to have you back on. If you were going to give somebody new coming into the industry one piece of advice, what would that be?
Good question. I know you want to make, I'm sorry, I'll make this quick. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. There is no failure unless you don't try. You cannot win a fight if you don't get in the ring. You know, all you ever want is a fighting chance. Don't be afraid.
Great piece of advice. And on that note, we're going to get out of here. But Nita, should we ask Phil to give our final words?
I don't care. Do what you're going to do, Meredith. Do what you're going to do.
It's something that we're doing because, you know, I'm inspired by Catch the Craze and their intro, and I want something similar because, you know, they're cooler than we are, and I want to.
Look at you with your blatant
I want a little bit of cool factor, okay?
Yourself out. Oh my God!
I did. I don't care. I don't care. You know why? Because I'm living the dream, man. I'm living the dream. Phil, if you don't mind, can you say, "Throw my dudes"?
Throw my dudes. You want me to say?
Yes.
Okay. Throw my dudes.
We're out of here, you guys. Thank you for tuning in. This has been Raging with Phillip Russertt. We are on episode 68. What? Make sure you head over to our YouTube channel and hit the subscribe button. Share this out with your friends. There's a lot of information that we got from Phil, and we appreciate the time that you have taken with us. On that note, you guys, get over to the Kickstarter. Give it a little love. If you backed it, thank you. If you haven't, shared it. And we will talk to you soon. We're out of here. Hey there. This is Meredith Loughran with RAGIN. And I wanted to let you know that we encourage and promote independent creators and their projects through organic interaction, consultations, and more. Visit Nita and me at RAGINAVC.com for details and contact information. Hit the button.